The chapter actually starts inside John Pierre's gym, where John Pierre's trainer is looking at John as he is a completely different entity at this point, where he is looking like he is drained of life, but at the same time is just almost a slave to his perfection mission. And yet his trainer can't do anything about it because John is just so far gone. His eyes have changed, his aura has changed, his habits, his ways of training, everything about John has changed ever since he had that near-death experience. And now he is contemplating his entire life. What is a human being? What makes them imperfect? What was the errors of judgment? How he tries to overcome them countlessly, and how that is what he thinks he's seeking now. That's what he thinks he's arrived at, is perfection. And we see him actually utterly destroy this punching bag through his jabs and his punches. And we see him like exhausted and in perfection with his actual goals and with his actual feat so far. He feels as though he is actually reaching there. But besides that point, we see that John's wife is at a bar drinking a non-alcoholic drink, but complaining to the bartender that her husband just doesn't care about her and think that she's annoying, and then the bartender's thinking to himself, you are very annoying. But what we're failing to missing here is from her point of view, she's looking at the love of her life being slowly slip away. And it's not the same John that she fell in love with. This is he's almost turning into a perfection maniac and doesn't care about anything else besides his goal. So that would really hurt her. I can understand that. But then we see that on the other side, we have Yu, who stepped up his training a bit. We see that Kay talking about that, how he's over the past few months has stepped up his training, doing a lot more aggressive things. And she starts to question, like, yes, he's doing a lot more. Yes, he's progressing a lot more. But what is his motivation behind boxing? Because she knows the motivation behind Kay, the coaches. He is just a victory and power maniac where he doesn't care about anything else besides that. But she can't get a good reading on Yu on what is his motivations. So after that day, after that night, after the training was over, she actually asked him straight up, why did you want to become a boxer? And then we see Yu think back all the way back to the beginning of the series, where he saw Jay on the ground getting beat up, and he saw a light in his eyes when he was getting beat up, and he was saying that he's going to be a boxer, and that was his answer, and that was his courage, and that was his way out of being weak. And Yu saw that as light, so he attributed the two to like, oh, this boy wants to be a boxer, he wants to be light, so maybe boxing is light. But he failed to realize that it's inside the human spirit that was the light. But besides that point, that is why he became a boxer. And then now he is just being led down this path of destruction and power, and it's actually kind of eerie. But regardless of that, we see that the match is about to start. They're actually squaring off, and everyone's getting their pictures and getting their bets in about who's gonna win. But we see that John Pierre, he is ecstatic about the chance to fight Yu, and he is not giving up on his opportunity. And we see him actually tell his coach, listen, no matter what happens in that ring, do not throw in the belt. I would rather die than lose this match. And it's just like, oh my goodness. So we are going to go. So that sets up the mood to the type of match we're going to have. We're going to have ourselves a little death match here, okay? But we see that in John's point of view, every action he's taking in his body, he senses every aspect of it. And he's like realizing that Yu, just by default, has lived in this world forever. Like this is the world that Yu lives in, a super hypersensitive feeling of his flesh. So we see that before the match starts, that Kay is still going on and on about, you're gonna win this belt, you're gonna be the best in the world, no one's gonna beat you. But we see that Yu still has that blank expression, but we see that Kay he's taking all the excitement for himself in a way, But we see that when the match actually begins, we're going to have the undefeated champion of 10 years, who is John Pierre, versus the new up-and-coming, fighter of the next era fighting. And as soon as the match starts, we see that John actually throws a very, very, very fast punch. It actually surprises you. So we never really see you have too many facial expression changes. So when he does, we know that's very significant. And this change shows how fast and how fierce John is. And that is going to be the start of the match, baby. When we look at history, when it comes to all the different creator unusual personal experiences in basketball or in volleyball or anything like that, we have to realize that there are certain moments when you're concentrating where pretty much everything becomes clear. Your whole body listens to you, and everything becomes almost like a perfect sequence of perfection. And you can have these moments in sports when you train so hard and you're in a match of extreme tension where you perform things that you didn't even thought you could. Even in baseball, people that think when they're hitting the ball they can see every stitch of the ball, or maybe even in soccer when they're about to hit the ball into the goal, they just bypass everybody. No one can understand how they made a shot. Or in tennis or any other sport, we've seen miraculous events of people taking what they know, taking what they trained themselves to, and pushing it to the max. And now we're seeing John Pierre in the ring doing the same exact thing against you. Now this entire time we see that you is holding back. He's holding back, even though the tension of the match is insane and he can't get in, and John is holding him back, and everyone's saying how powerful this match is and how strong John is and how the perfection of his technique is so immense. But we're seeing that from Kay's perspective, he is saying, John was a genius, but now he's actually a monster. He actually stepped into the realm of you. And then we reflect and we see that actually Kay went through his own experience when he was in special forces in a war, and we see him actually when he tries to confront and run towards his enemy, that he actually dodges a bullet, and he recognizes that he dodges a bullet. So he understands the extremes of our cognitive abilities, and it's really about why he's obsessed with boxing. Is because really he understands that it takes two great people, two great perfect athletes to really bring out each other's full strength and full capabilities. And we see that in this match right now between you and John Pierre. It's basically, John is just overcoming his limits, and then we're seeing how it basically the battle's at a stalemate until we see that it's a little flashback until when Kay was telling you, listen man, I need you to watch these videos of all these professionals so you can come up with a counter strategy, right? But then we see that he tells them, hey, do not copy the movements you see, just see what they do and do what you want to do. And we see that when you finally takes this advice, he goes into this animalistic, almost track field position where he's completely exposing himself. But John Pierre knows better. He knows that if he goes in now, thanks to his new revelation about his abilities, that he'll die. It won't be no survival. So now he's going to focus completely on defense. But even though he was going to focus completely on defense, he got hit, this impact frame, he got hit so hard that we don't even see his face anymore, and the impact frame is huge, and everybody's reacting in almost like a death. They were terrified. Everyone's terrified at this besides Kay. Kay is just he's almost oozing and so happy that the destruction is coming. And then we're finally seeing you act like his true self, and we're seeing this demonic, just straight up evil, intense panel of you with his face shaded out and his eye whited out, and he is just mean.
Penny